Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1 for the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
Aragalaya protesters let go of Gama. Is there a separate law for parliamentarians?
වගකීමක් ගන්න පුළුවන් කෙනෙක් දාන්න කැබිනට් ප්‍රකාශක හැටියට මේ සභාවේ ගෞරවය ආරක්ෂා කරන්න පුරුදු වෙන්න මේක ඇතුලේ අපරාධ නීතියට යටත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා නීතියක් නැහැ සියලු දෙනා යටත් වෙනවා
Yuan Wang 5 slows down still in the Indian Ocean. Man crushed to death by falling electricity pole. A flood in South Korea after 8 years, 9 dead.
On to those stories in detail. The Occupy Goldface protest site, which stood for over 100 days, is now being vacated by the activists.
Tents were removed from the Goldface Aragalaya site earlier today. Even the library that was functioning at the Goldface Aragalaya site for a number of months was removed today.
Gama Janata Pustakale අපි shift කරනවා පානදුර පරණවත්ත බෝධිය කියන පන්සලට.
This is the People's Liberty of Gama. We will shift to the Paranavatta Bodhiya temple in Panadura. The premises have been allocated for us to carry out operations under the name Gama Library. The Aragalaya protesters have jointly decided to vacate the protest site from today after occupying the area around the President's office in Goldface for 123 days. Representatives of the Aragalaya protest convened a media briefing in Colombo on Wednesday morning and announced that the people's protest will be renewed. Attorney at law Manoj Nanayakara, speaking to reporters, said vacating the Goldface protest site does not mean the end of the Aragalaya, but it will continue at a regional level across the country until the expected changes are achieved. He also noted that the repression from the state will only further strengthen the Aragalaya. Venerable Kuswate Mahanamatero, who was leading the Aragalaya protest from the front side of the struggle, will continue against the repression and will call for the immediate lifting of the emergency regulations. The Venerable Tero also stated another main demand will be for the immediate dissolution of the government that has no mandate and the establishment of a people council to bring about system change. Aragalaya, who are out on bail, visited the Slave Island police this morning to provide statements. Trade union leader Joseph Stalin, who was among those arrested and granted bail, repeated the call for the government to end repression. He also slammed the conduct of Sri Lanka police for informing court that they need to record more statements from the Aragalaya activists, even after arresting the activists. Reverend Father Satyavel stressed that the Aragalaya activists are not terrorists, but those who call for justice. Heated exchanges were reported in Parliament today over the manner in which the law was being enforced. Sri Lankan opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said when the matter of parliamentary privileges was being discussed in Parliament on Tuesday, the country was misled when it was said that the Public Property Act does not apply to events that take place within Parliament. He questioned the House of the Public Property Act is in fact not applicable for the events that take place in the House of the Legislature and requested the Speaker for an explanation if the Public Property Act and the Penal Code are not applicable to those in Parliament. The opposition leader said that comments by the cabinet spokesperson noting that the Public Property Act is not applicable in Parliament sends a very wrong message to the people of Sri Lanka, as it can be termed as one law for the MPs and a separate law for the people. SJB MP Mujibur Rahman said that when Parliament property was damaged several years ago, then the Speaker Karu Jayasuriya appointed a committee to probe the matter, and it found 5 MPs accountable, and the CID too was prepared to take legal action against them. The MP said when cases were to be filed, it was foiled via political intervention. He said such events only increases the anger of the public against the MPs. Meanwhile, the 22nd Amendment Bill of the Constitution was presented to Parliament by the Minister of Justice today. Moving along, the Yuan Wang 5, a Chinese vessel used for tracking satellites and intercontinental ballistic missiles, remain in the Indian Ocean. This is despite the Sri Lankan Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirming that it made a request to defer the visit of the Chinese vessel to Hambantota.
The Chinese ship coming to Sri Lanka is completely diplomatic. It is normal. Many ships similar to the one that is to come now have arrived in Sri Lankan waters in the past as well. Warships have come to be serviced. However, this has somehow become a new crisis. They have changed the route of the vessel and they have changed the dates from the 11th to the 17th. This is not a simple matter. We have elaborated continuously that the powers controlling this government is putting Sri Lanka in dire straits.
India had repeatedly voiced protest against the vessels arriving, citing security concerns, and yesterday the Sri Lankan Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it requested China to defer the visit of the Yuan Wang 5. India also termed the vessel as a Chinese spy ship. It is in this backdrop that Sri Lanka made a request from China to defer the visit of the vessel. However, yesterday the vessel increased its speed and reached a point some 600 nautical miles away from the southern Sri Lankan port of Hambantota. It is now reported that the vessel abruptly reduced its speed to 5 knots late last night, changing direction towards the Andaman Islands. However, again this morning, the Yuan Wang 5 changed back to its original course. The vessel that can travel at speeds above any other standard vessel had reduced its speed to 4 knots.
Miftah Ismail, Finance Minister of Pakistan, says there were serious worries about Pakistan heading the way of Sri Lanka and getting into a default-like situation, but that seems to have been averted after significant changes were made.
There were serious worries about Pakistan heading Sri Lanka's way, Pakistan getting into a default-like situation. But thankfully, we've made some significant changes. We've brought in significant austerity, belt tightening, and I think we've averted that situation. We are now in an IMF program. We've reached a staff-level agreement. We expect to get a board approval later this month. We've taken off subsidies from fuel, from power, other things. We've raised taxes. So I think we are headed in the right direction.
Representatives of the 9 parties broke away from the ruling faction say that most politicians are operating with an ulterior motive of attaining power instead of finding solutions to the crises that are prevailing in the country.
Representatives of the 9 parties convened a meeting at the Sri Lanka Communist Party headquarters yesterday.
අවාසනාවට මේ දක්වා සියලු පක්ෂ එකඟ විය යුතු.
They haven't even submitted a document to an all-party agreement on the way forward. This is a power struggle. The leaders of this nation don't have the slightest need to get this country out of this mess through a united effort.
නරාවලින් ගොඩ ගන්න ඕනි කියන හැඟීමවත් තාම අපේ රටේ දේශපාලන නායකයන්ට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ.
ඒ වගේම අපි පක්ෂ එකමුතුවෙන් ගොඩනගනු ලබන නව සන්ධානය ඉදිරි සති දෙක තුන ඇතුළත එළි දැක්වීමටත් අපි තීරණය කරා.
අපි ගෝඨාභයට කිව්වා සර්වපක්ෂික.
We told Goldface to establish an all-party government. He did not listen to us. He brought in Ranil instead. There's no point in talking about that now. He's not going to go ahead with it. Is he going to allow us to establish a national commission and appoint a new prime minister? He has already appointed a new prime minister.
The police special task force seized around 19,000 litres of diesel that was secretly being taken away from the Hambantota fisheries harbour. The STF said the consignment of the diesel was being prepared to be taken away to Ampara.
The police special task force stated that they seized 2 lorries and arrested 4 suspects. According to information received by the police special task force, the suspects were arrested in a special operation last night.
A school that was commonly seen by the locals as a stable for cows was converted into a proper school following the intervention of Gammadda today.
The Galpottegama school is one of the most rural schools in Anuradhapura. The 67 students that are being educated in this school usually spend their mornings cleaning the premises of the waste that is left behind by the roaming wild animals and cattle. Gammadda was able to provide a protective fence, a new gate and a playground with a generous donation from Mr. and Mrs. Shweta Senawatna. Transports in Borella supported the youth association that comprises of the past pupils of the school with sports equipment.
In times of need, in times of sorrow, both today and tomorrow, with the people, Gammadda, empowering the nation.
A father of two died today after he was crushed under an electricity pole. This unfortunate incident was reported from Galin Bindunuava, and the man had suffered serious injuries to his head.
A 39-year-old father of two died after an electricity pole fell on him. The incident took place when a tree that was being cut down fell onto the electricity cables, forcing the electricity pole to come out of its foundation. Newsfirst correspondent said that the man was ruled dead upon admission to the hospital.
Moving on with more local news, the Bandaraville Anti-Vice Unit arrested 6 people who were excavating for treasure inside a forest reserve in Uva Parnagama.
Authorities were given a tip-off about the treasure hunters and they managed to arrest the 6 suspects and seize the equipment they were using following a raid inside the forest reservation. Investigations revealed that the suspects were between the ages of 32 and 43 and were from Avisavella, Mathugama, Kosgama and Bomburuella. Newsfirst correspondents said that the suspects will be produced to the Valimada Magistrates Court and investigations are ongoing.
Those who make a living through coconut husk-related industries in Polonnaruwa district are in dire straits due to the lack of fuel.